CBSE Board, Class 9, History, Chapter 2, Part 12, audio by Renee Matthew. In some places, especially in Central Asia, we saw that many nationalists. Who comprise the nationalists? The peasants, the non-Russians, the local people, everybody was attacked. They were massacred by the colonists, especially the Bolshevik colonists, and that led to a great confusion. So what happened as a result of that? The Soviet Union allowed these non-Russian nationalities to function as a political autonomy. What is the meaning of autonomy? It means the freedom to act independently, that is to function separately. This did not mean that they had all the right to take their own decisions or that they did not come under law. That is not the meaning. They came under the government, but they had the freedom to take some independent decisions. Now, even now we have got autonomous colleges, for example. They come under a particular university, but they have got some sanctions to take decisions on their own. Autonomous colleges are there in India and all around the world also, but they come under a university. So similarly, non-Russian nationalities were allowed to take decisions as a political autonomy. Who gave the right for that? The Soviet Union, that is USSR. This was a state which was created by the Bolsheviks apart from the Russian Empire in December 1922. So before this, Russia was known as Russian Empire. Now it is Soviet Union of Russia, USSR. It was formed by the Bolsheviks. Now this led to a great confusion. On one hand, they were supporting non-Russian nationalities. On the other hand, what happened was that there was a big clash. They did not allow, they discouraged the movement of nomads. Nomads means people who just keep traveling and wherever they get in touch of a particular land, it can be Russia or any other place, they will go and settle there. People who keep on traveling, nomads, okay. So they did not encourage people from other land to come and station here in Russia on one side. So because of that, these two policies contradicted. So that is why it is written here, there were unpopular policies and they forced the local government to take these unpopular policies on one side, asking them to function as political autonomy, on the other side, harsh discouragement, extreme discouragement of the nomads. And because of that, they were not able to win the hearts of other nationalities. The other nationalities found it very confusing and Bolsheviks lost their property amongst the other nationalities. That is what happened. I hope this particular point is clear. Now, how to make a socialist society? Socialism was the ideology and everybody was revolving around it. The Bolsheviks during the Civil War, we saw the biggest war, right? 1918 to 1919. The Bolsheviks kept the industries and banks nationalized. That is, it came under the control of the government. And they also permitted peasants to cultivate the land that had been socialized, that had been confiscated from the nobles. We saw all these points. And Bolsheviks, what did they do with this land? They used this confiscated land to demonstrate collective work. Collective work. They took this land and demonstrated what is meant by collective work, group work. Okay. Instead of giving the land to a particular person to discourage private property, what they did is they took all the land from all the nobles and they asked the laborers to work on it collectively. Like for example, two land in a particular area, if it is very big, it will be clubbed together. It will be brought together and people can just work on it. And what about the profit? It will be shared by everybody. So this was a kind of centralized planning that was introduced. And the officials also, they thought that they could set targets for 5-year plan, 5-year period and all these things to bring up the economy. To bring up the economy. Now there is a source box here, socialist cultivation in a village in the Ukraine. So these are some kind of write-ups or some kind of source from those times. So some kind of cultivation took place in a village in the Ukraine. A commune was set up using 2 farms as a base. I told you just now that is collective working. Okay, so confiscated farms as base. One commune was set up. That is, a group of laborers or peasants worked on it. The commune consisted of 13 families with a total of 70 persons. 13 families with 70 people working on it. So remember that everything will have to be shared. The farm tools took from the farms were turned over to the commune. Okay, so all the tools were used for modern farming. The members ate in a communal dining hall. Everybody were having food together. This is the meaning of collectiveness. Okay, so if anybody asks you what is the meaning of collective working under Bolsheviks, this is the meaning. They had their food together and income was divided in accordance with the principles of cooperative communism. So it's not that everybody, they could just take the share that they liked. It was divided equally according to the principles of cooperative communism. The entire proceeds of the members' labor as well as of all dwellings and facilities belonging to the commune were shared by the commune members. So everything including labor, whatever they got, the dwelling, then the accommodation, everything was shared. Okay, so it had its own demerits also. So the source is Fedor Belov, The History of a Soviet Collective Farm. So from that particular source we have taken an extract. There was rapid construction during this particular time, which led to poor working conditions because just now we saw that everything had to be shared. So now it led to poor working conditions because so many people together were working together, especially in the city of Magnitogorsk. This is the city of Magnitogorsk. What happened in the city of Magnitogorsk? There was a construction of a steel plant. It was achieved in 3 years. So imagine the kind of work that they asked the people to do. It was more of hardship and target. So steel plant was established within 3 years and workers had lived hard lives. The result was 550 stoppages of work in the first year itself. Within 3 years, they were able to set up the steel plant, but in the first year itself, people just gave up work. And what happened in the living quarters? Especially in the winter time, you know that it's very difficult to live in these western places at 40 degrees below. Oh God, it's really shivering. People had to climb down from the 4th floor and dash across the street in order to go to the toilet. So working conditions were that bad. They did not have a toilet of their own. They just had to climb from the 4th floor and so much of hardship to meet your daily routine. Just think of it. And there was an extended school system which was developed and arrangements were made for the factory workers, peasants and their children to enter the universities. Remember that they did not have education, not only the children but even the adults had access to universities. That is known as, so the government could now say that, see, we are giving so much of opportunities for you, but the living conditions were not proper. Creches. Creches are places where small children are looked after, especially of the factory workers, especially women workers, because when they're not able to look after the children, they will put them in creches. That was also established. Cheap public health care was provided. Cheap. It is not very good. So when the public healthcare and everything is cheap, then what more can you expect? Model living quarters were set up for workers. So a lot of living quarters were there, but at poor conditions. The effect of all this was uneven, though since government resources were limited. So all the government resources, whatever they had, they made use of, and it was limited and everything was uneven. It was not even. Why did they have these kind of confiscation of private property to bring in equal rights? Did they achieve it? Not to full extent. So look at the schooling system. Look at how the children are sitting together and studying. And this means factories were used as symbol of socialism. They were trying to promote factories, saying that we are trying to promote socialism, and by giving poor health conditions. Now look at this particular source. It is from a small child. Okay. Dreams and realities of a Soviet childhood in 1933. So a child is writing a letter. Dear grandfather Kalini, my family is large. There are 4 children. We don't have a father. He died fighting for the workers' cause, and my mother is ailing. My mother is ailing means crying, weeping and also sick. I want to study very much, but I cannot go to school. I had some old boots, but they're completely torn and no one can mend them. Nobody can repair them. My mother is sick. We have no money and no bread, but I want to study very much. There stands before us the task of studying, studying and studying. A boy who really wanted to study. That is what Vladimir Ilyich Lenin said. But I have to stop going to school. We have no relatives and there is no one to help us. So I have to go to work in a factory to prevent the family from starving. Dear grandfather, I am 13. I study well and have no bad reports. I am in class 5. So look at this touching letter. A child wants to study badly, but because of the conditions at home, the father died, the mother is sick, and he's forced to work in the factory. The source is from a 13-year-old worker to Kalinin. Kalinin is the Prime Minister of Soviet Union. He was the President of Soviet Union, and it was from a 13-year-old worker who worked in the factory. Stalinism and collectivization. Stalin overtook Lenin. This is Stalin. The period of the early planned economy, I told you about the 5-year plan, was linked to the disasters of the collectivization of agriculture. What is collectivization? It is a policy where all the land from different landowners were, confiscated, was taken together. I told you this earlier also. And they were converted into collective farms, and these collective farms were called kolkhozes, and it was carried by the Soviet government in the late 1920s and early 1930s. That is nothing but collecting the farms, that is individual property from all the landowners, putting it together, and all the people had to work on it collectively. Like how they had the collective dining hall, 70 families, 13 families, 70 members, all that. So in short, you can say all lands, cattle, equipment, everything, whatever was used on this particular farm were to become collective property, did not belong to one person. Okay. So by 1927, 1928, the towns in Soviet Russia was facing a very big problem of grain supplies. Again, problem, population problem, everything. The government had fixed a price and they asked the peasants to sell these grains at the price which was fixed by the government. Okay. See, first what they did collectivization, where they were asked to do collective farming. First they asked the peasants to take the land from the private landowners. Then they converted it into collective farms. It was converted into collective farms called kolkhozes. After that, slowly the government said, we will fix a price. In that price you go and sell outside. They were asked to sell their grain to government buyers, that to buyers from the government at these prices. Was it profitable for these peasants? We don't know. Stalin. Okay. Stalin headed the party after the death of Lenin, and he introduced firm emergency measures. He was so firm in his rule and measures. He believed that rich peasants and traders in the countryside were holding stocks in the hope of higher prices. So he felt that when these people were asked to go and sell the grains at the prices fixed by the government, what did the peasants do? They did not go and sell. They were holding stocks. They started getting grains from the field. They will put it in their granary. They will not go and sell. So he understood that. He understood that they were holding back stocks without selling it so that they can sell it at higher prices later without the knowledge of the government.